Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Ask Jimmy Smith. Today, I'm excited to be talking to you about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, something that can make a complete difference in whether or not you're successful as an Amazon seller. And it's the one software tool that, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen me mention a ton of times, but it's the one software tool that can help keep you from making bad purchases and also help you to find better purchases. And so today I'm going to be talking to you about Keepa, Keepa.com if you don't have a subscription. And the subscription currently to Keepa is about $17 per month, depending on the exchange rate. At the time of this recording anyway, it could go up in the future. But right now it's about $17 per month since it's an international company from the United States. So it's an amazing piece of software that is without a doubt the most important software that you should use in your Amazon FBA business. If you're doing any type of arbitrage, whether that's retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, hybrid arbitrage, if you're doing any type of wholesale, and it can even help with private label if you're looking at competitors' information and you're just trying to get a better feel for what the market holds. But today I'm going to be giving you a Keepa tutorial for beginners, for FBA beginners. So if you've been selling on Amazon for a while and you just want to see me utilize Keepa and see me kind of talk through the way that I think through different charts, then great, you can keep watching. However, if you are a beginner, this is what is going to help you the most, because I am going to go through the three most important things you need to look at on each chart, as well as analyze probably about 5 or 6 different charts and different types of products that you might run across whenever you're using the Keepa.com platform. And so you can access Keepa on your phone. There is a Keepa app for, I believe, both Android and iPhone. I currently access it through Scoutify or any other sourcing app that's out there you can use. But Keepa.com you can also access on your phone's browser by just going to Safari or whatever phone that you use. You can use Google Chrome as well if you've got that for your phone. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the basics of Keepa. I'm going to go through the 3 things that you need to know the most, and then we'll take a look at some other oddities and things that you might come across as you start to analyze Keepa charts. All right, so this is what a Keepa chart looks like. I pulled up just some random products. I didn't go through and find a whole bunch of great things. I just pulled up random products so that I can show you a couple different examples. Now, if you've never seen Keepa before, this might look very overwhelming to you. There's a lot of, obviously a lot of different lines and movement in these lines. It's just basically a few different graphs that you can look at and tell if ultimately it's something that you want to sell on. You can see if the pricing is consistent. You can see if it sells consistently. You can see if Amazon's ever been on the product. So much data you can infer from these charts. Now, in this example, basically the first 3 things that you need to look at and that you will be looking at in general every time that you look at a Keepa graph. The first one is this Keepa or this green sales rank line. So you can see this green sales rank line goes up and down consistently. And every time that it drops, that is typically considered to be a sale. Now, in something that moves a little bit faster like this, it's going to be more difficult to see these little drops, but you can tell that it's dropping enough to show that it is actually selling regularly. So that's something important. If you were to see a Keepa graph where the line was just going up and continued to stay flat, then most likely that is not selling at all. And so we are looking for things that drop and can continue to fluctuate in this manner. The second thing that you want to look at is this pink line. This pink line is called the buy box line. So the buy box is what shows whenever you come over here to buy something, there's a buy box here that Amazon automatically populates. And so that is basically showing us what the buy box is at over this time period. That allows us to know, hey, if we send it in at this approximate price, and we get the buy box, then we can tell if we would be profitable or not. And I'm not going to get into whether or not these items are profitable. I haven't even looked them up to see if I can source them, but this gives you a good indicator of what price that you can sell it at. What we want to look for with this pink line is something that is consistent. We don't want to see a ton of volatility where it's going up and down regularly. We want to make sure that this is consistent. So if we look at 3 months ago, this was at $76, and right now it's down to $57 or so. If you can make profit at this amount, then that's okay. But if it's something where we're looking at a product, let's, pull it out for a year. Let's say you looked at this product here. and you saw that it was at 95, but then it was down at $70, well, that would be a problem because you don't want to buy it expecting to sell it at $95 because it can drop down to this $70 price point. So it's very helpful to see these Keepa charts because you can see basically what it did over the last year, over the last 3 months. You can look at the entire history if you click down here in this section. Typically, whenever I'm evaluating a Keepa chart, I want to see what the full year looks like. So basically, if I'm looking at the pricing, I can see that it's at its high. It was around $90 of a buy box, this pink line. But currently it's down to 57 or so. So I probably, if I can send it in profitably at 57, then I feel pretty comfortable with that because it's been higher. It's kind of at a low point right now. But if I saw it at $90 and it used to be at 72 recently, then I probably wouldn't send it in because it has a high likelihood of dropping back down. So basically you can tell by this graph that it does sell very fast. If you're looking at the green sales rank line, and the pink line, the buy box line, gives you a lot of information just showing that, hey, this is, it used to sell for much higher and it's currently started to drop in price. So something to watch out for. And then the last thing you want to look at is this bottom box. We actually usually ignore this middle one because it's the same information pretty much as the top graph with the green line there. So we ignore that middle one. This bottom box though gives you the new offer count or the amount of sellers on a listing. So what you want to see is a count or a line of sellers that continues to fluctuate up and down consistently, right? At this point, it was at 64, then people sold out of the listing and now it went down to 40, then it started to go back up and then it dropped down again. So we like to see that this is fluctuating, because what that means is sellers are coming on the listing and then the demand for that product is outweighing the supply for it. So sellers start to sell out of that listing in the majority of cases. So those are the 3 basic things that you want to look for in each chart. Now there's a few more things I'll show you here and some of these other examples, but those 3 basic things again are 1, the sales rank line. You want to see if it's selling regularly in this green chart. The second one is the buy box price. Is it consistent or does it fluctuate heavily? This one actually kind of fluctuates pretty heavily for me. So I would only buy this if I could, sell it at a pretty good profit around this $56 point, because it's usually going to stay above that $56 price point. And then the third thing that I'm looking at is going to be the new offer count, what the sellers are doing, if they are coming on and selling out of the listing. If you were to see a graph that looks more like this, where the sellers are just going straight up, well, that would be a problem because that means that there's too many sellers coming off the listing and not enough demand for that product. So I would avoid something that looked like this. But if you're able to see a whole year and there's a bunch of volatility where it goes up and down in sellers and the price stays fairly consistent, then that would be something that is a better sign. Or even if you catch a listing on this part where it was up higher and then it's been dropping, that means typically that you've got a good opportunity to send in some product and hopefully the price will go up because the sellers are selling out of the listing. But all in all, if we're looking at it, it has some good volatility in terms of sellers. And so that's a good sign. So let's take a look at the next one. In this product, I wanted to show you this for a specific reason. This is showing us, well, let's look at those 3 things first. First, the green line is showing that it sells a ton, right? This thing is really moving. It's selling a lot of product. Second, if we look at the buy box price, it's completely flat, and yeah, it did go up $1 at this point, but for the most part, it's completely flat. Now, while that may be a good thing from a pricing standpoint, so you know what price it can sell at, it can be problematic and point out one thing, that this is a private label or an exclusive wholesale product. And the other indicator of that is because down here in this new offer count, we've had a couple extra sellers come on, right? It was typically 1 and then it jumped up to 2, but it pretty much stays between 1 and 2 sellers on this listing over the last year. And the last way to check to see if it's a private label product is you can actually see that it's sold by Feast Kitchens, and the name of this product is Feast from the East. So Feast Kitchens, it's clearly a private label product. But the reason I love Keepa is if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be able to tell that, oh, okay, it's pretty much always been 1 or 2 sellers, and it's always been the same exact price for the most part with some very slight fluctuations. So to me, it might be more difficult to tell in a lot of different scenarios. So this helps helps us tremendously to see this as a private label product, and we would avoid buying it, even if it was profitable. And even if we looked here and it was a completely different name, if it was something completely different than the name of the product, we would still avoid it because this looks like a private label or an exclusive wholesale product. So you can see back here, at the very beginning or the earlier stages of this product's life cycle, there were a bunch of different sellers and there were a bunch of different prices, and it would fluctuate pretty heavily because there were a lot of different sellers that were able to sell it. Well, over the last year or so, about a year and a half, you can see a bunch of sellers fell off of the listing, which gave the private label company, it basically is showing to me that since all these sellers dropped out, that they had IP claims submitted against them. And so they had to get off the listing, or that it went into brand registry and, Amazon just wouldn't allow them to list it anymore. Ultimately, though, it's been consistently 1 to 2 offers and the price has remained extraordinarily stable. This is too stable. Like, this is too much of a risk to me. So you know that ultimately it's more likely a private label product, which it is in this case. So the next example, take a look at Oreos. So you can see here that it's got the green sales rank line is moving pretty well, it's fluctuating very well. So it's selling. The pink buy box line, while it was up here at $30 or so, dropped down to $18 and has consistently stayed there. And the reason it has consistently stayed there in the buy box is because Amazon's on this. So the other thing that I love about Keepa is that Amazon, if you hover over this, it'll pull up the Amazon chart. So if we're looking at this, we can see that Amazon was on this product for this period of time because it's orange and it's shaded that way. Now, if for whatever reason Amazon was sharing the buy box with other sellers, most likely this buy box price would be lower than Amazon's shaded area. But Amazon is giving the buy box to themselves. I believe, let's take a look. Yeah, ships from Amazon, sold by Amazon. So that's just Amazon selling it themselves. And you can just basically tell that, hey, I shouldn't buy this product because if I were to send this in, I'm going to be sending in basically a losing battle that Amazon's going to always win because they are taking the buy box in this example consistently. You can also tell that, yeah, some sellers may have either sold out or dropped off the listing, but ultimately the sellers have remained not as fluctuating as some of the other listings we've looked at, right? I mean, we could see here, Amazon was on it for a heavy period of time, and the sellers started to climb on that listing because they weren't selling anything because Amazon was. Then Amazon sold out. And so there was a lot of volatility. Sellers started to sell their product and more sellers came on because they saw Amazon sold out. But then Amazon came back on and it's kind of slowly started to flatline. Yeah, some either fell off here or sold out there for some reason, but then it's continued to flatline. So whenever you see this, you want to avoid anything that Amazon is participating in, because that is a potential problem for you if you try to send in a listing like this. This next listing, I like to show this as well because it's more of a slow moving ASIN, but you might see a lot of things like this if you're doing replenishable products, which is what I mainly teach throughout my YouTube channel. And it's what I teach in my course and book, Side Hustle to Full-Time Income. But this, if we were just looking at the 3-month chart, we would see, okay, well, somebody recently listed this at $44 and it didn't really sell at all. Someone else came on the listing right here and it still didn't sell at all. And then right here is where we had at least one sale. I say at least because a drop could be 2 or 3 sales at once. It could be one person that sold 5 items or purchased 5 items. And so that's technically 5 sales. Whatever it is, a sale occurred or multiple sales occurred at this point. And you can see that it's from that point continued to start selling again. So we had another sale a few days later, then another sale, and then it kept selling. And then it slowly went a while and then it dropped again. So this is a slow seller at best. So it's something that you may not even want to send in, but you will find a lot of replen listings like this where there are sales. And then if you continue to look out for the year, this is what I like to see. When somebody was on this back in March of 2021, as soon as they came in, it sold out or sold 1 or 2 items there. And then it didn't sell and they sold another one and then they sold out of the product. So this is at least showing that there's some demand at this $42 price point, not necessarily at this $44 price point. It's only a couple dollars difference. And if we look at the entirety of it, it used to sell pretty regularly. at $30. So if you could buy this and send this in at $30, well, then awesome. You've got a lot of profit there. You know, you could really make this thing move a lot faster if you sold it at 30, but it did sell well also at 37. It did sell a few times at 42, and it's showing to sell at $44 as well. So I would personally buy this and test it. Hopefully it would be profitable around, you know, this $37 price point, because if the price does drop down to that point, you're still making money here, which is what it was back in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So I like to see that. But ultimately, people that look at these graphs, especially newer sellers, might get freaked out that, you know, the sales rank didn't change much at all. Well, that's because there were no sellers on this listing. So that's why you want to look at all three things. And you want to look at a long history, typically a year. If you want, you can look at all just to see some of these patterns that occurred. This is probably my favorite one out of all these examples, because it's very common to see from a replenishable arbitrage perspective. But even back here, there were a bunch of sellers that came on, they sold out, and then nobody was on it for over a year. And then this one lucky seller came in and sold, looks like a bunch of product over a couple month period. And then, you know, they sold out and didn't, I don't know if it's the same seller or not, but they didn't come back for a while. And then obviously there was another lag, and now more sellers are back onto it. So this would be something I'd potentially test. I would just test it cautiously. And when I say test, I would send in 2 or 3 just to see if it sells. But you'd want to make sure that it's profitable at probably around this $37 price point, because it sold really well at that price. So in the next example, we can see here. So if we're looking at the 3 different things, we're looking at the sales rank is going up and down rapidly, right? It's just moving a ton. And this is on the year chart, by the way. The buy box price, though, fluctuates heavily as well. It goes from $10 up to $13 or so dollars, and back down to $9.75, then up. And then it stayed flatline, but then it dropped again and dropped again. And you can just see that it's very volatile price. So I would only purchase this product if I was profitable at this low point of about $9. Okay. If it's not profitable there, then I would not test it, because it has a high likelihood that it's going to drop down to $9, and you might be stuck purchasing a product that doesn't make any money. But, you know, so that's why I like Keepa, because it can keep us from buying something that's poor. You know, we're looking at it right now and it's priced at $13. But it does like to drop down to this $9 price point, $8.50 actually. It does like to drop down here quite regularly. So I potentially wouldn't buy it if this is a negative profit. If I'm going to break even, I might buy it and risk it so that I know at least I'd get my money back at $8.50, but I can make some good profit at this $13 point. But ultimately, you want to make sure that the volatility, if it is a volatile priced product, that ultimately you've got the ability to get your money back out of it as much as possible. And then also down here, the sellers, they're going up and down regularly. There's plenty of demand for this product, and I love to see that that is showing, just confirming that there's plenty of demand. Sellers are coming on, then selling out, then coming on, then selling out, etc. So that is a good indicator that you should be able to send in this product and it should sell. Let's look at this example, and I like this one as well, just because it shows a very typical thing that I see all the time as well. So we've got it on the year chart. There's never been, or there hasn't been a buy box that we can see in this past year. It's always been these orange triangles. Now, these orange triangles are your FBA seller prices. It does show that there's a buy box, but not in this last year. So if I go to all, you can see it used to be pink buy box dots. So there used to be a buy box, but now in this year, I don't believe, see, there's no buy box. So what that means, it's a little bit harder for buyers to purchase something. They have to go in here and click see all buying options instead of just purchasing it on the page. But this gives you the opportunity to see, well, it still is selling even without a buy box, right? These orange triangles are showing that, you know, early last year is about $10 for a bottle. And then it dropped down to about $7, and then it slowly come back, but it continued to sell tremendously fast, or at least decently fast throughout that year, even without the buy box. So people are selling it at that price. You can also see the seller count went up. As the sellers went up, the price started to go down. And then as the seller started to sell out of the product, the price did start to rebound a little bit there. So there's typically a good inverse correlation between the sellers going up and the price coming down, and vice versa, the sellers going down and then the price going back up because there's less supply to meet that demand. And then you can also tell here in the last 3 months, somebody came back on the listing a few different times. As they came back in, it looks like it just sold out and pretty quickly. Here you can see that it's been back at this $855 price point, FBA, and it has been selling pretty regularly. And currently there aren't any FBA sellers on this product. Maybe they just got back in, I guess. Yeah, if we're looking at it right here, looks like they just got back in. So yeah, look, would have been today, which is pretty crazy. So this is something to watch out for. If you see this and you say, hey, nobody's been on it, but whenever somebody does come in on this listing, it sells pretty quickly. Well, that's a good indicator that you could send in a product and it'll sell fairly quickly as well. But again, you don't have to see a buy box. If you see that there's just FBA prices and it's still selling, then that's an excellent indicator. If you were to see just FBA prices and no drops in the sales rank, well, then I would probably avoid it because that means it's not selling. But this product has been fairly popular. And then this last example, I wanted to show you how variations work because you will come across something that is a variation. Now, this is, I believe, a private label or exclusive wholesale type product because there's only 1 or 2 offers. And again, the price is extraordinarily flat. It's always the same price. So you're not seeing other arbitrage sellers on it. But if I click onto this pack of 12, you can see that the Keepa chart changed, right? Even if I look at the year, you can see it's just been 1 seller and the price is different and the seller count is different. But let's see if we can tell by the sales rank line. Does that change at all? Barely changed. Typically with variations, you will see that the sales rank doesn't change at all. Sometimes it will change. If it does, then you can trust it. If it doesn't change much, then I don't trust this green sales rank line. Instead, I look at the pricing to see if it's consistent, and then I look at the sellers. And if we were looking at something with a lot of sellers here, let's say there was no sales rank at all, and we were just looking at a listing like this, then ultimately I would be able to say, well, hey, the price was going down and the sellers are going up, but then the sellers must have started to sell out of this product. And as sellers came in on the listing here, they started to sell out as well. So you can even tell if it's selling, even if there's no sales rank. You can also tell if it's selling, even if there was a sales rank you can't trust from a variation standpoint. So hopefully that doesn't get too detailed. There's a couple other things that you can do with Keepa, actually a ton of other things you can do with Keepa from an advanced strategy standpoint. You can take a look at the statistics box and see how many drops there are. And I can't, anytime I move my mouse, it unhovers. But I don't look at these first 2 columns, the orange and the purple one. I look at the last column, the sales rank one, and you can see drops. The 90-day average at the bottom says 4 per month. So that gives you an indicator that it is selling at least 4 times per month based off of that information. Again, that could be 6 sales, could be 8 sales, but it's at least selling 4 times per month in this example. If we were to look at this product, it says statistic drops 20 per month. But if I'm really looking at this, it's selling probably way more than 20 a month because it moves a lot faster. So if you look at that green column, it says drops 20 per month. So that's probably selling 30, 40, 50 per month of units anyway. So it gives you a good indicator. That's why I don't use the statistics box a ton, but I do know people that like to see it and like to utilize it. And there's, again, much more that you can do with Keepa than just these things. But the 3 things that you want to look for, one last time, you want to look at the green sales rank line to make sure it's going up and down consistently. The second one is the pink buy box line. You want to see that that is as consistent as possible. And if there are fluctuations, you'd want to check out the low priced fluctuations to see if those are profitable, if it were to ever drop back down to that low price. And then lastly, you want to look at these new offer count, this graph here, just to see what the sellers are doing, if they're coming on the listing, if they're selling out of it, and you want to see some variability, some fluctuations there as well to make sure that the sellers are selling out of the listing. So yeah, that's the basics of Keepa. This is the information that we pretty much use every day in our $100,000 plus per month business doing arbitrage and replens on Amazon. And so this is what you need to know. I mean, that's the basics of it. You just need to make sure that you know Keepa. This is the only software tool. If I had to get rid of every other software tool, this is the only one I would keep because it ultimately allows us to As you saw, we can avoid bad buys. We can avoid private label products. We can avoid sending in items that we might have issues on. But we also can see different pricing options. We can see that, oh, okay, when a seller fell off the listing and there was no one on it, but then a new seller came on, it sold immediately. So if we come onto the listing, then we can potentially sell it immediately as well. It can also help you to, understand that opportunity for your business. So I love Keepa. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Please post in the comments below something that you might like to see. If you'd like to see some more Keepa training, if there's something that wasn't fully clear, because I've been doing this since December 2015. So this is something that is easy for me to potentially just gloss over. That's something that you might want to have seen more. But yeah, please comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out whenever you subscribe. And I hope that this was helpful for you. If you'd like, please check out my website, AskJimmySmith.com, where I've got any information you'd like to see from an Amazon training perspective. And yeah, I hope that this video helped you, and I hope that you have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you.